Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
You know, we have this saying on our team. It's called break the rock. And what it is when I grow tired and weary, is the saying, I look at a stone cutter and I see him swinging his hammer at a stone, and he just keeps going and keeps going. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop and look for cracks in that rock. He doesn't stop, wipe the sweat off his face. He just keeps swinging his hammer. And that's what this team's all about. We don't look up looking for awards or anything. We're nose to the grindstone. We're swinging that hammer, and we're not resting until that rock breaks. And when it breaks, we know it's not that one swing that we did, but it's all the ones that came before. So you guys will say, 19 points came from this play. No, it came from everything before it. Everything attributes to all the points we scored today. Offense, defense, special teams. Everyone played their tails off. I'm so happy for these guys.
And it's a fun one when the rock breaks. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks, recapping Iowa's 22-0 win over Rutgers to clinch a share of the Big Ten West. A shot to clinch it outright and punch that ticket to Indy next week against Illinois, but we'll stay focused on the Scarlet Knights for now. Mitch Vick, Owen Sebring, Mike Howell here to recap everything. Of course, thanks to everybody for tuning in on a Sunday. If you're streaming this live on YouTube, on the Iowa's News Now YouTube channel. Of course, you can also get kind of those clips, the smaller bits on Eye on the Hawks on Twitter and on the Iowa's News Now Instagram page. We'll be sharing those throughout the week. But we keep our focus on a day that a lot of people have been waiting for in Iowa City. 400 yards of offense, 22 points when translated to Hawkeyes is like 50 points. Just a heck of an offensive run out there. You heard about the break the rock mentality, and Mike brought up a good point that there's probably a good analogy between Iowa viewing themselves as stone cutters in an age where you could probably just get a machine to do the work for you, but that isn't how they do things over the last 25 years in Iowa City. But that offense, boy, in the postgame, just super excited about a game they've been chipping away for a while.
The biggest thing is just trying to grow each week. I felt I've gotten a little bit better each week that we've been playing. The same goes for the offense. We've all been trying to work, and we feel like we've been growing each and every week. I think that really just showed today as a whole. Not just me. I wouldn't be able to do it without the guys around me, especially, Caleb, that offensive line played great today. Running backs, everybody was all around. I thought Brian called a great game. They put a great plan together. And so I think it just shows what, as an offense, how much we've grown.
This whole year we've been working hard, and obviously the beginning part of the year didn't go how we wanted to with the offense, but Coach Ferentz and all the other coaches and everyone on our team knows that it's just going to take us getting in rhythm. And today I felt like we found some rhythm in our offense, and now we just got to keep it going. Could we stack this on next week, and could we stack it on at practice, continue to work hard every single day and get better every single day? Just the typical stuff I always say. We just got to keep focusing on the little things, and it'll take care of itself.
Most notably, the offense, I think, took a big step. And, we put points on the board in the second half, but even in the first half, I think if you look what they did, we had field position that was not real good 2 times inside the 10. Still found a way to drive it out there and give Torrey a chance to flip field position. We weren't necessarily holding the field position the way we wanted to. But that was better in the second half, certainly. So just as the game kept going, thought our guys got more confident, and we, did some good things out there. You can't microwave this stuff. You just can't microwave. Same thing with the offensive line. I thought today was their best day. But it's a matter of just, you got to practice. You got to watch film, look what you're not doing well, and then just keep working at it. And, Deacon still made the one mistake there right before halftime. But I thought, clearly he was playing with more confidence out there. We were helping him a little bit more. And but most importantly, he did the job. And I think that you talk about resiliency. I think, that's the first word I would use with him.
You can't microwave this stuff. And I think there were some difficult realizations and understandings and coping with that when you see a kid in Deacon Hill go out those first few starts who hadn't played football in a good long while at a competitive level. And now these last 2 games, 10 of 15 at Evanston, maybe not the yardage you'd expect seeing 10 for 15, but yesterday, 20 of 31, 223, a touchdown, a pick. You heard about the pick at the end of that drive. I think they had to have still gone into halftime encouraged because that was as nice of a drive as you could ask for, and there's still meat on that bone. He was just a little bit wide or long on that opening drive to Nico on a long one, and then on one to Caleb Brown. But, of course, Caleb Brown Boy, folks had high expectations for him transferring in from Ohio State. A big game for him. Filling in for Deontay Vines. Again, next man in on full display there. So his first career touchdown late to help make that a 22-0 win. We've got 2 minutes worth of offensive highlights we're going to go through because there were a lot of storylines in the game where you have 402 yards. This is a great catch out just before the pick, but Caleb just, man, got his opportunity, got targets, and really made some nice plays.
We expected to see a lot of touchdown passes from one Big Ten transfer to another Big Ten transfer this year.
Did not happen that way.
And we got a few of those.
We did not expect Zach Ortworth to have the longest reception of the season for Iowa, but the freshman from St. Louis making a great play there. Deacon said his eyes he saw Zach's eyes just go wide. This was a nice little play here as well, too. The man who is now the second leading receiver for Iowa this season, Addison Ostrenga, 8 catches for, I think it was 47 yards yesterday, 47 yards. He now has 14 catches on the season, which is second on the team, because that's how it is in 2023. Nico Ragani had a podium game for the first time in a while. 4 catches for 48 yards. It was nice to see him. And then Jazz Patterson helping lead a really nice rushing attack yesterday. 14 carries, 53 yards, and that touchdown. Caleb Johnson had 54 carries, or 10 carries, 54 yards. Wouldn't be the record. I think Jordan Canzeri had like 45 or 46 at one point. But there's the long one for Caleb Johnson, who didn't get a touch last week at Evanston. 10 carries, 54 yards for him. LaShawn Williams, 13 carries for 63 yards. Also had a couple catches for, I believe, 24 yards total right there. Yeah, nice little 17-yard play off the screen. Just anybody and everybody got an opportunity and did a little something with it. Again, behind an offensive line where Logan Jones, I think, started, but then wasn't able to finish the game, so Tyler Ellsbury had to
Did he start
jump
out
in
there?
I think he did. I think that's what Kirk said in the postgame. Rusty Feth was in and out a little bit. Mason Richmond, who you heard off the top, played. He was a little banged up after Evanston, but boy, just a game where, yeah, if you took a few swings at that rock, it really felt like it broke in a lot of good ways. Just a matter of figuring out how to keep breaking a broken rock, I guess, going forward. But what a game and an important one in that Big Ten West race.
If that fourth quarter Iowa team is the team that we get going forward, I mean, that's a team that not only are they not going to lose the next 2 weeks, but that's a team that could compete in that Big Ten title game. I mean, they look good all game for sure. At least the defense looked great. Offense was definitely improved a lot. But the fourth quarter, I mean, they scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. Again, extrapolated over a whole game, which we love to do. That's 60 points. Again, that's a lot in one quarter, 15 is.
That's just math, folks.
And, yeah, that's a team that, could compete against an Ohio State or Michigan if they play like that every game.
What's really encouraging is no 3-and-outs. The only 3-play drive they had was off the Quinn interception. We'll talk about Quinn's big play coming up a little later. But start the game off with a 10-play drive. It was only 45 yards, but still, could have had a field goal after that. You asked Kirk about the mental fortitude that Drew has after missing a kick, and
Two games in a row.
called it a chip shot. He should have made it. But
We've talked a lot about Ricky Stanzi's mental fortitude in 2023 as well.
3 drives over 10 plays, 10 for 41 or 45, 10 for 37 that resulted in the first field goal, and then 12 for 44 that resulted in a field goal. The next step is take these field goals, turn them into touchdowns. Yeah. Because if you want to compete with in Ohio State or a Michigan, whoever you're going to play, likely in Indy, assuming they don't lose the next 2 games, they win at least one of them. You're going to need 7 instead of 3.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were probably pretty discouraged after that first drive because that's what we've seen nearly every game this year is Iowa puts together a really great first offensive drive, and then, they score, they don't score, and then that's the only good drive they have all game. But then, they just kept cranking them out where it's like that even by the third quarter, I think I was asking you, Mike, dude, their time of possession is insane today. I mean, they are just hammering this ball right down their throats. They're getting first downs. That is an offense like we haven't seen out of Iowa all season. And I think I wouldn't be quite as encouraged about it if this had come against, say, Michigan State or Purdue. It's like a team that's at the bottom of the Big Ten standings. Okay, well, they did what they were supposed to do. But Rutgers is a good team.
You might look at a Rutgers and think that they are because just historically when they've joined the Big Ten, they haven't done it. But this is a good defense.
Yeah.
And the offense, I mean, they've been effective at least rushing the ball. You could say that they're one-dimensional, which maybe leans into Iowa's defense's favor, but still, it's not a traditional Rutgers team. They're pretty good on both sides of the ball, and it was a really encouraging game.
A defense that came in second only to Iowa in the FBS in number of 20 plus yard plays given up. I think it was 17, and boy, Iowa had a few of those that went over 20, and again had a couple shots to move the ball even more. So boy, a super encouraging thing. And yeah, if they play like they did in the fourth quarter, that's a team that can have a fight with anyone. I mean, we've talked about it for like 3 years now. If Iowa just had like a middle of the road offense and, coulda, shoulda, woulda situation, say what it is. But boy, yeah, you saw a little bit of, again, 22 points for Iowa feels like. It even after that second field goal, and you saw Rutgers changed, they went 3 and out on 3 straight passes, and it's like, even they know 6-0 for Iowa is a pretty big lead. They're like, oh, we got to figure out a way to get a touchdown quick.
It's really encouraging about the offense too, and I don't know if you guys picked up on, or maybe I misreading it, but I feel like they did do a lot. Like their scheme was a little different. There was a lot of quick hitches that resulted in 5.
Which you've been
6
calling
yards.
for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't work. There was one well, I guess it was an end around to Nico that got blown up. Sometimes those don't, but there were 2 end arounds. I mean, Caleb had 25 yards rushing off end arounds.
Like that, yeah.
It was. Yeah, I know he had 2 plays.
3 for 27, a long of 11, and then had he had two catches, or I can't read today. 2 rushes for 20 yards, long of 13, and then had the 3 catches for 27 yards.
So you look at that and it's like, 50 yards. And if you look at across college football, you're like, all right, that's a so-so game. But for this Iowa offense, he's really come as one of the go-to weapons in the last 2 games at least. So,
Yeah, for sure.
That's very encouraging because you were missing someone who could make a play, and he's made a lot of plays in the last couple halves.
Big thing for Iowa, too, I think they had a lot of good first down plays. And, I mean, anybody will tell you, you have a strong first down play where you're setting up 2nd and 1 to 5 is a heck of a lot better than 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. I mean, that first play of that opening drive was Leishon for 9 yards. And it's like, okay, gets you ahead of the sticks pretty quickly. Of course, though, this is still Iowa in 2023. It's all about the defense still. 127 yards. They hold the Scarlet Knights to. You had Kyle Monagai, the leading rusher in the Big Ten, the only guy in the conference averaging over 100 yards a game, bottled up 13 for, I believe it was 39. And we were talking, had a good chunk of those yards early in this game. Gavin Wimsatt, who's a guy who can run around quite a bit, he was bottled up. But another quintessential Iowa defensive performance where they finally get a shutout this season. And, of course, the guys are really excited about all that after the game.
No, that's definitely a goal of ours every week. And being a Mike backer, that's a dream come true. I mean, I just feel like we played a great game, top down. I think we held them to 30 rushing yards. And I think they were leading the Big Ten or something like that. So we knew how explosive their offense was. We knew the challenge we were facing. I just felt like we did a great job handling their offensive weapons today.
Yeah, I think it starts up front really with the defensive line. Those guys playing into blocks and just really being physical within the run game and trying just to get them out of things that they really like to do. But that's a heck of a football team we just played against. And we knew that going in that they have a heck of a quarterback, heck of a running back. And that D-line just did a great job just kind of controlling the line of scrimmage and making the job easier for our second end.
Yeah, we get spoiled with Iowa's offense, as we know, to where, 127 yards, yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds about right. But, boy, you know they hang their hat on when they can get a shutout. And Doctorman, who Jay Higgins pointed out to, you're the guy who likes the history when he was talking about free safeties, and we'll get to that in a little bit again, talking about Quinn Schulte. But 4 games, 1 offensive touchdown given up for this Iowa defense. And it came with less than 2 minutes to go against Northwestern last week.
Yep.
Off a short field.
Off a short field.
Uncharacteristically bad punt.
A.J. Henning had the nice return. We wax poetic more often than not, deservedly so, about Iowa defenses. What they have put together this year, given the offense trying to find its footing again, it's about as impressive as anything. I have to think Phil's a Broyles semifinalist, finalist. I don't know where those lists are. We'll talk watch lists here, or not watch lists, but semifinalists too, a little bit today. But they've been phenomenal, and they're the reason Iowa's got a share of the West already with a chance to clinch it next week.
I forget who it was that tweeted out where their yards per play given up average is. I don't know if that was Eichholt or somebody else, but it's a just like percentage points behind where it was last year, but it's like, 3.99 yards per play or something like that, which last year was like 3.86 yards per play, something to that effect. But
Let me see if I can look that up.
I remember early, like after 4 games this season, we were thinking, okay, defense still good, but it looks like it take a step back. And then the last 4 or 5 games, you're like,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a product. If you look at some of the national rankings, the Big Ten West is definitely at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to offense. In general, in the defensive rankings, they're mostly Big Ten teams. And is that just the style of the conference? Can you attribute that? Less pass happy and less, colder weather, more rushes than say the SEC, the ACC, and Pac-12. Maybe that has something to do with it, but still very impressive.
What's really interesting too, again, we've played 10 games and still just 1 rushing touchdown allowed all season.
That was the Purdue one, that late one
against Purdue. Yeah, not necessarily a meaningless touchdown, but didn't matter a whole lot in the course of that game. I don't know, historically too, does that have some significance? Like last year, did they give up more rushing touchdowns? Or one rushing touchdown through 10 games seems unbelievable. I mean, that seems incredible for that front 7.
There's got to be so many just Snapple facts coming out of this Iowa defense that just none of them shock you. You're just like, of course, yeah. I mean, it's an eye test. You watch them and they just look great. The top 4 teams in the country when it comes to yards per play surrendered are Big Ten teams. One of them is from the Big Ten West, and that is the number 1 team in America now. Iowa giving up exactly 4 yards per play. Ohio State second at 4.04. Penn State third at 4.13. Michigan fourth, 4.23.
Good grief.
The next closest is Nebraska, Rutgers. After a decade, I still don't remember Rutgers is in the Big Ten sometimes. They are giving up 4.59 yards per play. Nebraska 13th at 4.71. So
that's why I wonder if the Big Ten has something to do with it, because there's
the
a lot of
style for
offenses
sure.
that are not good. in
Wisconsin
those
is 19th, 4.89. Iowa State 23rd, 4.92. Iowa State. This is a Hawkeye podcast, folks. Iowa State's bowl eligible.
Yep.
They looked great last night.
I didn't get to watch that game, but
they didn't get done till sunrise, but
too late for me.
boy, kudos to.
You're just walking to Provo.
Matt Campbell, Big 12 Coach of the Year? ? I mean, who thought they were going to compete for anything this year?
Hot seat.
Everything.
Not so hot anymore, I guess.
Yeah. Boy, what game was that? What that dude?
Ohio.
That was Ohio, yeah. Boy, you just don't go into the home of Curtis Fader and win a football. Hey, salute to the folks' names. That's been a fun little story.
Yeah, I mean, just to turn this into a Cyclone podcast for a second, I mean, that team last night, I mean, Provo's, BYU's not a great team in the Big 12. All the newcomers in the Big 12 have been pretty lousy this year, but they were still a 5-4 team that could have become bowl eligible yesterday. And Iowa State, I mean, I watched probably the last 3 quarters of that game. They killed them. I mean, they just destroyed every aspect of that game. They were unbelievable yesterday.
I think there were high hopes for Abu Sama eventually in Ames doing something. I mean, we saw what he did at Southeast Polk, but man, he's been fun.
Yeah.
He's been so
Big
fun to
12's
watch.
an interesting conference with the new 4 teams that they've had. Yeah. They haven't had a lot of success. I guess UCF beat up, who they beat? Oklahoma State, who had a good turnaround.
Pounded Oklahoma State. It was like 45-3.
But I was listening to the Chris Williams podcast with the Iowa Everywhere. Yeah, they were talking about how BYU's really struggled against the Big 12 teams, except when they host games at night. So I kind of thought Iowa State would struggle a little bit. Like the only 2, I think they have like 1 or 2 wins in conference.
That's a man who watches the betting lines right there. At home, at night, and Iowa gets a little bit of an afternoon game, not totally night, but boy, when the sun goes down at Kinnick, it does feel special in there, and that'll be the case next week against Illinois when they get a chance to clinch their 2nd Big Ten West title in 3 years, their 3rd overall, and of course the last year you can clinch a division title. We will talk about Iowa's road to a division crown right after the break.
Better sleep means better morning. Start your morning waking up on a Restonic mattress. At Corcoran Furniture, we are Delaware County's largest Restonic mattress dealer. We have great prices on Ashley Furniture and the largest selection of Restonic mattresses, featuring the Marvelous Middle, giving you more support where you need it so you can sleep soundly. And it's made for you right here in Iowa. So if it's a crossword, coffee, or the morning news, let Corcoran Furniture help you start your morning off right. Visit Corcoran Furniture in Manchester or shop online at CorcoranFurnitureManchester.com.
Before we move any farther forward, I want to give a shout out to our listeners in Cebu City of the Philippines. I didn't think we'd get any listeners coming from the far side of the world today, but we got somebody to shout out from the capital city of Cebu Island. I haven't been brushing up on my Tagalog recently, but como esta, as
There you
I think
go.
they say in the Philippines.
Look at this guy.
We're a world podcast, international now.
Yeah.
We've,
Someone's in the YouTube chat. For somebody listening to this on Tuesday and wondering what in the world's happening, we got somebody in the YouTube chat talking about that. Is Hair Trigger in there? Hair Trigger, you here?
yeah, he's there.
Okay. Morning, Hair Trigger.
Mr. Worldwide.
Thanks for holding this whole podcast together, Hair Trigger. So we move on now to the world that is Iowa on the doorstep of clinching the Big Ten West. If you watched the game on BTN, you saw an emotional Kirk, something we're getting used to these last few years, being told they'd clinched a share of the West. And boys saw Kirk get a little emotional in the postgame too with us and the rest of the local media. But Iowa win away. If they can win on senior day against Illinois, will clinch the Big Ten West and punch that ticket to Indy. Kirk, after the game, talking about that opportunity in front of the Hawkeyes.
That's the objective. Back when you start this thing up, that's the objective is you want to win a championship, you want to win a title, you want to win your division. But I think right now we're just focused on winning the next game. And I didn't even know that was at stake, really. We just want to know every week is the mentality, not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves, enjoy this one tonight, and then back to the film room tomorrow and go through the preparation this week.
And the one thing I've always enjoyed about football and not enjoyed about football is it's very humbling. You never have it figured out, and that's like, real life is the same way. So, all you can do is show up and try to do your best, give an honest day's effort, have a good attitude, and then you never quit, You never quit. So that's what the guys are doing. And the big thing right now, we got 2 opportunities, and, it's nothing's going to be easy. Like, you just hear the scores from around the country today. Nothing's ever easy. Nothing's ever predictable. But the good news is it's when guys get to taste some success, I think that grows confidence a little bit, and we need to grow confidence. We're in bad need of that. So hopefully we can build on this, and we'll see how these next 2 weeks go.
Yeah, you see the score of the Illinois-Indiana game and see what Illinois' backup quarterback John Paddock's doing, 500 yards in that overtime win. He's going to be a guy Phil Parker's team gets the scheme up for, but there's a shot from David Eicholt. He was asking about just, the overcoming of adversity, and that's a face we saw a few times yesterday from Kirk of just, he's gotten real good the last few years of being able to just get that.
Crunch it back.
Yeah,
inside.
he
Hold it back.
Lets it poke out a bit, and then is able to compose himself. And
saw a lot of that in Nashville last year.
yeah, and I think we talked about this earlier in the year of just guys get older and there's more emotions there, whether it's biological and chemical or just you've seen some stuff and you understand how important every one of those cool little moments is. And again, we'll talk about one of those moments here in a little bit. But listen, Big Ten East is what it is. Jim Harbaugh, if Michigan runs the table, will not be Big Ten Coach of the Year. He's been suspended for half the regular season. Assuming Michigan goes 12-0, Ryan Day with an 11-1 Buckeye team that's a non-division winner is not going to win Big Ten Coach of the Year. If Kirk Ferentz and this Iowa team go 10-2, win the West with an elite defense and special teams, but also a backup quarterback, second and third string tight ends, a beat-up offensive line, and a running back room that's taken some hits too, and a wide receiver core that doesn't have the numbers that other wide receiver cores do, Kirk Ferentz is going to be Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2023.
So you're not saying that he should be, you're saying he's going to be.
I'm saying if they go 10-2 and Michigan wins out, Kirk Ferentz will be Big Ten.
So this is a scenario in which Michigan wins.
I mean, if Iowa loses out and they finish 8-4, then no, they're not going to be.
Yeah. But if they say they lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
I think those awards are before aren't they?
Or
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think given what they are on the road to doing, with what they've done it with, and a lot of folks picked Iowa to win the West, Iowa or Wisconsin to win the West. You could argue, and Mason Richmond even said said something. Kirk is just coaching his tail off this year. There's a darn good argument this is one of his best coaching jobs, and his whole staff is involved with that. Whether it's Brian on offense, again, great game for Brian on offense. Phil does what Phil does. LeVar Woods with special teams, all the position coaches from Seth Wallace, Abdul Hodge, Kelton Copeland. I'm forgetting guys there, of course. Seth Wallace, I think I already said, but it's just been, this is as impressive as you could ask for.
Yeah, I would not disagree with you, and I think that, you know, there's certainly a case to be made, like a strong case to be made for Kirk as head coach. I think that a lot of times in these Big Ten awards, they just tend to give best coach to the best team, and so if Ohio State wins out and they beat Michigan,
I think, if Ohio State wins out, if they beat Michigan, I think Brian Day will be.
However, the other coach that I think deserves a strong look at that is David Braun. I mean, what he's done at Northwestern.
Brought that up earlier.
Everything that he did everything that happened there in the postseason, or the offseason, that's been a incredible coaching job that David Braun's done in Evanston.
And he'd be more than deserving to get. Yeah, that's
Got the Big Ten West standings up on the screen right now on YouTube, and it's they're technically in second with the tiebreakers, but there's 5 teams tied for second at 3 and 4. It's kind of just
that is
it's beautiful if you're a
Westy,
sicko,
isn't it? Yeah, that's
just something to behold.
Big Ten Westy, folks. Yeah. That's great. Look at that. 86 points allowed in conference by Iowa. 31 of those came against Penn State.
So I don't know. I'm not going to do the math here, but there's probably a scenario where Iowa loses out and still goes to the Indy.
There's probably a formula for that. Yeah, that's a sickos thing that I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. But yeah, I'm sure there is. And all those teams, all those 3 and 4 teams are 5 and 5 too. Wow.
Yeah.
That is just what a Big Ten West sandwich you got there.
They would need both. Like, if Iowa loses out, they would need Nebraska and, well, yeah, I guess that, I mean, Nebraska, Illinois, and Minnesota would need to lose another game.
Minnesota plays Ohio State.
Yeah.
I know that for sure.
So we'll assume that is going to be a loss, but Nebraska and Illinois too, because if they happen to beat Iowa the next 2 weeks, then they would be ahead of them in the standings.
And let's stir the pot a bit. Iowa is this away from being 9-1 and already clinching the West.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And they'd be.
Oh, who you just waved to? Just kidding.
That's what it looks like.
This was an invalid greeting. Yeah.
He's stirring.
Yeah. This is how you stir pots. Boy, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That's wild. And they'd probably be ranked. I'm guessing they would have been like 17 in this first CFP. Cooper might still have a little bit of that dark horse Heisman hype. There's a timeline out there. If you guys have been watching Loki, there's some timeline where that's.
I mean, if that happens, there's an outside chance that Iowa makes the CFP. I mean, if that happens, they go to the Big Ten title game and they beat
12-1 Big Ten. Yeah, and your only loss is to a Penn State team that just has the unfortunate situation of playing in the Big Ten. They have been the Penn State. You could argue is probably a top 5-6 team these last 5 years, and the only thing you can knock them for is that they have to play 2 of the 3-4 best teams every single year.
Yeah. It'd be tough to do that. I mean, and that's going to be the new Big Ten. I mean, you don't have to play them every year, so there could be scenarios where a couple teams are 7-2, or still doing 9 games, 7-2, 8-1, but add Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA, and it's going to be like really tough to get into that top 4 of the Big Ten.
You're going to have the 9th best team in the Big Ten, probably competing for a conference title in like one of those group of 5. I mean, it's just going to be so stacked, and there's just going to be a lack of visual parity. I guess you're going to look at records and go, oh, that team's like 7-5, 6-6, and be like, it's going to become what people did with 500 SEC teams for a long time of like, well, yeah, if they were playing in like the ACC, they'd be running through people, and like, there's probably going to be a little bit of truth to that. There's going to be some really good teams in these new super conferences that everybody's putting together.
I got 2 things from Hair Trigger, our one of our top fans right now. One, there's a timeline where Cooper is the QB. That's a funny line.
There's absolutely a timeline, yeah.
And this is a good question that he just threw out there. He'd rather play Ohio State. If you're picking, and if you're Iowa, is that who you go with? You'd rather play just to give an outside shot at a potential win?
From
Ohio State or Michigan?
I think in those games you really look at quarterbacks, particularly if you've got a really good defense and who you're going against. If Kyle McCord's grown quite a bit, I'd rather go up against Kyle McCord than J.J. McCarthy. There's a darn good argument J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback in the country.
That's a good point. J.J. did leave at one point. No, he didn't leave. It was 3rd down, but he did hoggle off the field.
He was a little banged up. Yeah, I saw that.
So if that plays a factor, then obviously if you don't have a healthy 100% J.J. McCarthy, maybe that's what you want to do. I think I heard a stat that the throw a pass in the fourth quarter, or maybe even the second half. They ran the ball.
Early,
He threw
midway
8
through the
passes
third.
yesterday. It was just.
But again,
rush
they
the
don't.
ball.
They
Don't
got
need to.
Blake Corum. We figured this out in the press room. Blake Corum has more touchdowns than Iowa.
Yeah.
Not to take any. Blake Corum's a stud.
He's a good-
He's a
good running
dude.
back.
He's right up there for the Doak Walker. But man, that's and Donovan Edwards only has like 300 some yards rushing this year, and he was. I mean, it's just because they're not playing a lot of guys full games. I think that's a big part of it.
I mean,
but yeah,
big guy there for Ohio State too. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is their big dude, and it's like, you know, going up against Iowa secondary, it's like that.
that's a fun matchup.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for
One of those that you.
Is that one where you
Cooper
have?
DeJean against Marvin Harrison Jr. for a
I
whole
know
game.
Cooper
Yeah.
usually plays on one side of the ball, and I think they moved him around. I can't remember which game, but they talked about it post game. Is that where you just have Cooper go up against Marvin Harrison Jr. the entire time?
Yeah. And then you got Jamarion and Emeka Ibuka, or
And a lot of teams are always picking on Jamari. It seems like every game.
yeah.
But
And he had a
pretty much you
great,
have
he had
to.
a great pass breakup. There was the one, I think it was Rutgers' longest game. Ian Strong had that 29-yarder, and I think it was on a third down where he catches it near the sidelines and just slips out of Jamari's grasp.
Watching that at first, I thought I was like, "Oh, bad." It was not bad coverage.
No.
The ball was perfectly placed, and then he slips out. Yeah, just a weird kind of turn there.
It's all results of my bold prediction at the beginning of the season was that Jamari was going to have more interceptions than Cooper because they were going to go at him more. And so, yeah, it's we've got a bigger sample size of plays against Jamari versus plays against Cooper. Both of them done fantastic, but Jamari's had a couple of those where just like, yeah, they slip a tackle or there's a gain in front of them because they're in zone or something like that. But boy, for a guy who missed all last year and a couple games this year, I mean, he's playing his best ball at the right time of year. So you got to love it. Speaking of the Hawkeye secondary, there's a time-honored tradition where your free safety has to be a walk-on, preferably from a parochial school. And Quinn Schulte now takes that mantle. His third career interception yesterday helped set up that final touchdown. It's his first career interception at Kinnick Stadium. He had one, I believe, at Maryland in 2021, which was the last 400-yard game for Iowa, and then had one to stop a scoring drive last year, and that loss in Champaign against Illinois. Everyone in the post-game room thrilled for number 30.
So happy for Quinn. Quinn's probably one of my closer friends, away from football. So it was happy to see him out there. I mean, guys, year 5. When you got a Cooper DeJean that you guys love to cover, so you won't miss a Cooper DeJean story. But it's those fifth-year guys that the media kind of forgets about. He's a 2-year starter. He shows up to work every day, does his job. Like guys like that's who I appreciate. Those are the dudes that I love to play against, and just to see him get that moment. I told him he should have celebrated a little bit longer, but he was trying to run back to the sideline like Cooper. So.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I tried to block my butt off for that. I ran as fast as I could, and I didn't hit anybody. So, so hopefully next time I can make it a little bit better of a block for him, and he can get in the end zone. But Quinn's one of my best friends, and I'm really appreciative and for everything he's done. And that was just a heck of a play. And you just love when a guy like that makes a play like that.
Yeah, I tease Phil about, you can't play free safety at Iowa unless you're a walk-on. It's just how it is, and Quinn's in that boat. But and then Phil plays this little game, too, for, I think it took him about a year and a half, maybe spring of Quinn's second year, maybe it was in the summer, where he acts like he doesn't know his name. It's a little game he plays. I know Phil well enough now. But I could tell he liked him right from the start. He's a serious, hard-working, focused guy. He wasn't good enough to play at that point, but he had all the right attributes. So it was just kind of a matter of time before he was going to start to he's been a good player for us, but he's really a strong team leader, too, and just so respected because his work ethic is, I'm out in the room all the time, but, you just hear his teammates talk about him studying film, all the things he does. It's pretty impressive, and that's the reason why he plays so well.
I said it after it was that game that did Quinn force a fumble and Ethan Hurt get recovered? Is that how it went?
That was the one.
So he actually didn't force a fumble.
Technically, yeah.
He was in there. I think it was credited Jackson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I still think, based on the video I saw, I'm like,
Based on video
you can't
evidence,
prove
yeah.
that Quinn did not force that. Anyway,
Listen, there was a shared
but
forced fumble.
It's games like that where I wish I could find Dwayne Schulte's seats in the stadium to just see his reaction. I mean, I could see Dwayne just going like, standing there, nodding his head.
I've seen their seats. It's like 40, 50-yard line behind the team. Yeah.
One of the really cool moments, and I've had this a couple times. So Bryce Schulte, the middle Schulte son, was a reserve tight end for Iowa too. I shot the 2018 opener against Northern Illinois to get footage of Matt Nelson because we did it. It was Cy-Hawk game was on Fox the next week, and we were doing Matt Nelson as another Xavier kid. Went to Iowa. His parents are both Cyclones, so he was raised a Cyclone fan. So that's why I was there shooting this game. But it was a big win over Northern Illinois. So Bryce Schulte got in, and so I took a couple ISO shots of just Bryce running routes and blocking and stuff. Sent that to Dwayne, which was super cool. So I got to send my shot of Quinn's interception last night to Dwayne, and just be like, "Hey, like, what a moment! Enjoy it!" And just like speechless, grateful. He's just such a cool moment. So those are so fun, but. We will make this a Cooper DeJean story for a minute, despite Jay Higgins' pushback on it. Cooper, when he has a big play, has zero reaction, no emotion. Look at Cooper DeJean, a la Max White touchdown against Western Michigan, just go off for his kid. Boy, whether you're talking about Jake Gervais or Brett Greenwood or Joe Conklin, shout out Joe Conklin. Boy, you just always have a kid who is a darn good football player at the high school level in Iowa who comes into this program, and there's multiple examples of it. Just come in and make their presence felt just because they hustle and they inspire, whether it's they watch film or they're just dedicated to it. Max White's another example of that as a running back, and there's been a few of those as well from local schools. Those are the moments that it sounds hallmarky. It's kind of what it's all about. These guys who probably grew up wanting to play for Iowa, and they get their opportunities, and what a special moment is that. And boy, when you see people's faces light up the way it did when they were asked about Quinn last night, just a super, super fun thing that's kind of quintessential, pun not intended, for what Iowa's all about.
It sounds like he's a pretty good friend too. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's my best friend out here." I want to be friends with him. He sounds like an awesome
Coach
friend.
Schulte's a good kid, comes from a good family, and he absolutely does. So what an awesome moment there, and it's because this Iowa defense is so stout in the front seven and the corners. We haven't heard a whole lot about Xavier Wampa this year. Haven't heard a ton about Quinn either, because the safeties are just sitting back there with a defense that's given up 13 plays over 20 yards. There's not a whole lot happening over the top, so they're just stay stout, stay sound, and when you get a big play, Xavier had his interception against Utah State, and I don't think he's had another one since. But he's there. Yeah. Those two are probably as sure tacklers as anybody can be, back there. And just because they don't have the numbers and the stats doesn't mean they're not doing their jobs pretty well. Another Dwayne Schulteism, just do your job out there. And boy, Quinn's doing it in such a fun moment again to have a return like that in a game like this, finally getting one at home. That's one he's going to remember for a while.
I had a friend who's a big Iowa fan who told me once about, and I forget if I'm going to say, I don't know if I'm going to say the name right, but is there a tradition of like defensive backs or linebackers on the Iowa defense called like a Johnny Cornseed or something like that? Are you familiar with this? Where it's like
I've not heard that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Really? This is unfamiliar to you guys?
Might be just your friend.
Or something like that, where it's like a kid who's a walk-on, and then not a guy who's probably going to get NFL looks, but eventually makes his way into the starting lineup maybe and makes a few big plays throughout his career. And I was just thinking about that with a guy like Quinn.
And we've seen a few of them at linebacker, obviously, with Jack Campbell and Josie Jewell, and I mean those are the two that first spring to mind. James Morris, local Eastern Iowa kids that come in and are just stalwarts. Pat Anger out of Bettendorf back in the day. Just great linebackers. And you see it on the line sometimes, but it's that weird little niche position at Iowa that you'll have some kid that played free safety that was a walk-on who kind of sets the standard. And it's been super fun to see a kid that obviously I've been familiar with since he was just a young kid back with Reggie and Bryce and him, and then Hope, who was a former intern of ours.
Shout out.
That's a fun moment for the Schulte family, and Yeah.
Yeah, I remember last year
stuff.
he started the season, and I think a lot of fans expected Xavier Wampa just to be the free safety.
There was a
from
lot of
day
talk
one
of,
since
like,
he's a
why is
five-star.
Xavier starting or not starting over Quinn? It's like Quinn's earned a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the fun juxtaposition of these two guys playing next to each other, a walk-on and this 5-star recruit, and look at him holding it down.
Yeah, because you don't see the work that I think last year would have been his 4th year in the program, and you heard Kirk, like, at practice he puts in a lot of work, watched a lot of game film, he's a leader. Fans don't get to see that because you don't get to go to practice, you know? So when you
Kirk
see...
said something like that in postgame, didn't he? Like,
Yeah.
doing a lot of plays, you guys don't get to see that.
Well, I think some programs open it up practice. Maybe we could get to see it. But once the game started, you could see why Quinn was playing, and he's had a couple of great years. And so just to see that interception at home on what I think is probably his second to last home game, right? Does he have another year? He doesn't have another. I get so confused with the
They
COVID
said he was a
years.
junior.
Oh, he's a junior. I thought he was.
I thought that's what they said. Yeah, he's listed as a senior. I mean, maybe he has a 6th year
Yeah.
if he wants to come back.
Pretty cool moment though.
Yeah, redshirt in 2019, played in 2020, played in 20. So yeah, this is his 5th year. So I mean, I'm sure he'll go through senior day next week. And, hey, you'll take him back there with Xavier another year.
Yeah, for sure.
A Xavier kid and Xavier would be nice in the secondary. So Owen's got some trivia because Owen's a trivia guy. We're going to get to that and then see the answers we couldn't have in our picks in the Big Ten West this week right after this.
Bauman's has been selling quality clothing for over 100 years. We carry a wide selection of men's and women's clothing. We recently expanded to offer a great selection of shoes and accessories. We have the area's best selection of both big and tall and can outfit anyone from the farm to the office to a casual night on the town. Bauman's is a proud family-owned business, and we're excited to continue the tradition of quality clothing and unmatched customer service since 1909. Visit us for all your clothing needs.
And back to trivia with Owen Sebring. Owen?
Now, I'll try to not give too much away. I'm not sure if I'm going to be betraying any sources here, but I'll say that I have a connection to a person who is on a city council in the greater Iowa City area, and they have the ability to track GPS signals from phones to see the most popular restaurants after an Iowa football game. Okay?
That's not the thing I'm worried about.
Restaurants or bars?
What's that?
Restaurants or bars?
You just described the third act of the
Police
Dark
state,
Knight.
yeah.
So
they
you
weren't on board with that.
This is a Black Mirror episode. So we're talking most popular restaurants. I've got the top 2 most popular restaurants to go to after an Iowa football game.
Is it just okay? So maybe I'm getting the weeds, but I think.
Our phones are getting tracked. I can't get past
I've
that.
got
I mean, I
3
knew
in my mind, and one of them I don't know if it's considered a restaurant, but I've eaten there before.
Okay?
Is it Brothers?
No.
Big Grove's got to be 1 or 2, I would think.
No.
Really?
Airliner?
That would be a good guess, but no.
I'm shocked it's not.
Okay, my last guess is Joe's.
No.
Iowa City proper or like
Greater Iowa City area, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Reds in North Liberty?
No, good guess though.
You got to think of places that have space. 30 Hop in Coralville.
I would just think all the kids going to one of the bars. Spoko?
No.
They don't serve food, do they? Yeah.
Tons of space though. Summit.
I mean, do they count Stella because it's right by the stadium?
Sure, yeah.
People walk by.
Man,
a lot of free ads today.
Joseph's Steakhouse. Is everyone going to get ribeyes after the game?
Number 1 location for fans to go to after an Iowa home game, Coralville, Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, come on.
I know. Hey.
I'm calling
Watch
honk on that.
your tone. I got more Texas Roadhouse takeout once the pandemic hit and like takeout became a big thing. I may have single-handedly self-sustained the Southwest side.
I've been to Brothers after an Iowa football game. I feel like there's a lot more people there than
Fire codes are being broken.
yeah,
at
there's
Brothers,
no rules.
Big Grove would be a great place.
I can't believe Big Grove's not 1 or 2.
Yeah. I went to a lot
People
of
are
Texas
shutting off their
Roadhouse.
phones. You can't try.
I went to a lot of Texas Roadhouse when I was in college, to the Cedar Falls one.
Yeah, there was that right on University, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was part of the mall for a while, but then they moved it away over to University. But anyway, yeah, like since I was on the cheer squad, my family would come up to a lot of UNI like football home games, and that was like just our place after a game. And so I forgot about Texas Roadhouse just because like I have not eaten there in
There's
like
only
15 years.
Just the one in Cedar Rapids on the southwest side. Yeah.
And so it's like that surprised me, but I'm like, people must still be going to that place after games and keeping it in business.
And it's kind of tucked back there a little bit. It's the one across from the Walmart, right? I'm trying to think 965 off the top of my head. There's a Buffalo Wild Wings back there.
By the way, they're not paying for us to say this.
No, we are plugging every
We're applying
restaurant.
for a lot of sponsorships today.
There's a Culver's there too, folks. Culver's.
Would you care to know the number 2
Yeah,
restaurant?
I want to know all these, yeah.
Okay, I only know the top 2. So number 2 restaurant after Iowa football games, Cedar Rapids, Texas Roadhouse.
I don't believe this.
Why are they tracking all the way up to Cedar Rapids? A, phones are being tracked.
Yeah,
Many
barely
red flags. And they're all...
They're all going to Texas Roadhouse, apparently. I don't know. That stunned me too, but if you're in Iowa and you want to go get some good cinnamon butter on your dinner rolls and have a awesome blossom. Or
boy, that is the wrong steakhouse, sir.
Cactus blossom? What do they call it?
I don't think they have those at Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, they absolutely.
That is an alternate steakhouse.
Bloomin' Onion. That's
there we go. That is not Texas Roadhouse. That is the Iowa Hawkeye football bowl. You get 6 rolls with takeout orders at Texas Roadhouse, folks.
Seems excessive.
I do not appreciate the way you're speaking about.
Hey, there's no leftovers when you get 6 rolls from Texas.
I'm not saying that it's not I think it's a good place to eat. I'm just saying, like, if you want to go celebrate, wouldn't you want to go, like,
I'd go to Big
go to
Grove. I
Airliner.
think that's usually my go-to
Yeah.
if I'm doing anything after a game.
For sure.
I have a good friend, my best friend who used to live in North Liberty, like swears by Reds.
Reds was great. Yeah. Reds, the group that Matt Swift and those guys that are a big part of Big Grove now, or started Big Grove, I think the foundation was kind of laid at Reds because they had the fire pit. They were like the first place to have a fire pit, and they had a bunch of local beers as the brewing industry was kind of getting started in Iowa. So yeah, that's always been a super good spot.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys.
If we're going food too,
data.
to drag this out longer, Wig and Penn is my favorite place to eat in the Coralville area.
I haven't had Wig and Penn in way too long.
Yeah.
Blind tomato, need it. I think we've covered most of the eateries. Monica's, get to Monica's as soon as you can, folks. Monica's is great. All right, let's see the picks. That's why we've just been naming off stuff.
Yeah. So 0-1 this week, going 4-3.
I can't believe it. I thought it was
He had Indiana covering, which they did. Purdue covering, which they really did. Ohio State pulled away. I think they won by 35. It was 31.5, and then Iowa. Mitch and I went 3-4, and I won with Michigan and Indiana and Ohio State. And Mitch, you won with Maryland, Northwestern.
I was so proud of those
and
picks.
Iowa.
And then I whiff on everything else. Yeah. Yeah.
So not
I
a
was super
horrible
proud
weekend
of
for any of us. Not like a great weekend.
Yeah, there's not much
a
to
lot of
say,
real
is
estate
there?
to make up for Mitch in the last 2 weeks. But Mike still retains.
There's a timeline where I finished 20 games under 500, and I just start tanking.
Been watching a lot of Loki, huh?
I haven't watched a single episode of
Oh,
this
that's
season.
right.
I need to, though. I need to. All this talk about timelines now, and the Marvels is coming out, or is it Marvels is
It
out?
came out, yeah. Cara saw it, said it was really good.
Yeah, Cara did say it.
Shout out to Cara. She's not going to watch this. She's not a sports fan.
She's been supporting from the beginning, though. She's been supporting from the beginning. So that's this is why you don't gamble, folks. Just all this. We don't gamble on these, but this is why you
Unless
don't.
it's the Iowa under.
I don't.
This is the Iowa. Speaking of Iowa,
Mike was rooting pretty hard against an Iowa touchdown that last drive. That's all I know.
Iowa is
can I
a
say?
3.5-point favorite going into this week's game technically now against Illinois. The over-under is 30.5. What did you say the live over-under was at halftime for Iowa? It was like 15.5?
No, that was last week against Northwestern. It was 15.5 when it was 0-0. I think it was 17.5 at half.
Those 2 points are important, yeah.
Yeah, which that went over.
Crush the over on the live.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is a football podcast, typically Hawkeyes, even though we got some Cyclone stuff in there, too. Big day as we speak right now. They might already be wrapped up. Iowa women's wrestling with their first home match or home meet ever. So congrats to the team there on history. And then is it at 1 or at 2 o'clock that Iowa women's basketball tips off against Tanya Warren's team in Cedar Falls? Caitlin Clark 16 points away from becoming Iowa's all-time leading scorer, something like that.
Curtis has Iowa women with 44 points. And I think Linden won at 22. So
Yeah.
looks like they're doing pretty well.
This Iowa women's wrestling team is.
They started the year ranked 8th, and then they demolished the 7th-ranked team. Hot to 3rd, right?
I guess I didn't see the most recent ranking.
I'm pretty sure they're 3rd. I saw. So
I mean, I don't know if I said this on the air or just in person to somebody, but it's like for your inaugural program to be ranked 8th in the nation in the first year is pretty impressive. But there was no way that they were not going to be the best team in the country this year.
Just got to give them something to chase, I suppose, right?
Yes,
Can't just hand it to them. Got to make.
you got to put them a little further down. You know, that makes sense. And then the Iowa women's basketball, we want to talk to them a little bit. Huge game on Thursday. I mean, I think what they said 16,000 fans in Charlotte for against
500,000 viewers, and that was going up against Thursday Night Football and everything like that. I mean,
what was it really? I mean, Panthers, Bears. I mean, come on. Is that football?
It's an important game to some people.
They play at 2 p.m. at the McLeod Center. Is that right?
McLeod,
Yeah, if I was Lisa Bluter, I'd be like Fran and say, we're not going back. Just kidding. That should be a good one.
That's a deep cut to 2011, was it?
I was there.
Yeah, we were both. We've talked about this before. I think that was Fran's first ejection at Iowa.
You got ejected.
And we
McCabe got ejected, right?
We found out after the fact that you and I were like, not you and I, Mike and myself were like 6 feet apart from each
Probably.
other.
Because I got
We were
video
both right there.
of Fran getting kicked out. And did McCabe get 2 technicals too? Is that McCabe?
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm pretty sure I was in that building too.
Yeah.
Wow, all 3 of us. Look at that. Time's a flat circle.
Oh, man.
They got another big game this Thursday against Kansas State. They lost at Kansas State last year. I thought that was a shocking result last year. Kansas State is a pretty good team. Looks like they're not ranked this year, at least right now. But that one's in Iowa City, so a little payback.
There are not a lot of games on the schedule that, I mean, you'd say the same last year that there were not many games that Iowa should lose, but yeah, before they get to the Big Ten, I mean, there are not a lot of games on the schedule after Virginia Tech that are losable games for Iowa. I mean, Iowa State, I don't know what to expect out of them. They've got a lot of new faces. Drake's always a good team. I think UNI's a great team this year. I think but they still, I don't know if they can really hang with Iowa within 10 or 15 points. I think they'd be fortunate.
It'll be tough. If Iowa wins this game, though, there's a darn good chance they're the number 1 team in the country when the new rankings come out, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That'd be super cool. And the way they won the game Thursday, Caitlin had 44 points. At halftime, they were shooting like 1 for 10 from 3 or 1 for 13. The only one was Caitlin, and they were still like winning the game at that point. And they were, outsized a lot. They started really small and still were like getting, rebounds against that good Virginia Tech team. It was just a really impressive win.
They need to get their 3-point shooting figured out. That's been a struggle over the first 2 games.
I think you got to feel like it's going to come soon. You've seen this team be good with that.
Yeah.
And it might be just like a lull, But if they can win these games, especially against a top 10 team like Virginia Tech, and not shoot well, that's a lot to look forward to. Yeah, very promising.
Yeah, that's just the one thing that if there's one thing to poke at over the first couple games, their 3-point shooting has been bad.
And they still might be the number 1 team in the country in 24 hours. That's been a fun time for Bluter's bunch, certainly. And I guess according to announcements at Kinnick Stadium, we're now referring to the men's team as Fran and the fellas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
Hey, I'm a big alliteration guy. I'm all about it.
They got a huge game this week, too, on Tuesday. I'm excited for that one. Maybe we could fit that into the Wednesday pod.
I'll be able to do that.
Depending on how it goes.
Why
It's
not?
been a fun team, too.
We're making the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can decide.
We'll just keep, and hey, you want to talk about the Hawkeyes beating Bucknell? You were at that game. What a cool atmosphere.
Oh,
for the
yeah.
soccer game, the NCAA.
I was a NCAA tournament, women's soccer, the first time they've ever hosted a game. I shouldn't have been shocked at how many people were there. I think over 2,000?
It's like 2,800 something.
2,800. I could not find a place to park. I had to park by the rec center about like a couple blocks away.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hike.
Yeah, there were a lot of people there. It was really fun. 0-0 through regulation. They scored 2 goals in overtime.
They
And
outshot Bucknell. What was it?
yeah, it was like 29 to
A lot to a
4
little. Yeah.
total shots. I think shots on goal was like 10 to 1. They only had like 1. But soccer's a game where you could outshoot like that. But if Bucknell had one chance the second half and scored, then they could have been bounced. So it's one of those cruel games where the shots really don't matter. You got to put them in the back of the net, and they did that in overtime. So it was cool to watch.
All right, good for them. So do they host the next round?
No, they play Georgia, so they're going to go down to Athens, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Man,
Look that up real quick.
fun times in Iowa City across the board. Lots of It's a busy time of year, certainly, and then you got all the state championships for high school football at the Dome this week too. So
we got what, 3 teams playing for a state title next week? We got Williamsburg, Grundy Center playing against MFL Marmac, so I guess 4 teams, and then in class, 4A, Western Dubuque is playing in there.
That's right.
I got there.
Little correction: they're not playing at Georgia; they're playing in Clemson, South Carolina. So I don't think they would have hosted anyway if Georgia was upset. So
yeah, hey,
that's on Friday.
Fun. Busy times, fun times. Wouldn't have it any other way, though. We'll be back here on Wednesday after we talk to everybody on Tuesday, of course. It's going to be Senior Day next Saturday at Kinnick. That game kicks off at 2:30 against the Illini. A lot of Senior Day memories, I'm sure we'll share, reflections from players after we talk to them on Tuesday. But it'll be a fun one, the home finale in 2023 for this Iowa Hawkeye team as they look to clinch the Big Ten West. Again, everybody, thanks for watching the stream if you have, or thanks for listening if you listen to this later on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, whenever it may be. Eye on the Hawks on Twitter, Iowa's News Now on YouTube and Instagram for everything else, all those visuals and all the fun consumables throughout the week. We'll see you again Wednesday. For Mike and Owen, I'm Mitch. Catch you then.